Just going to start off with a picture. This is Mike Webster. According to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mike Webster, otherwise known as Iron Mike, played football starting in 1975 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played 15 seasons for the Steelers, and he played 2 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mike Webster was called Iron Mike because he started every single game in the season for all 17 seasons. He never missed a game. He also was called Iron Mike because when he hit you, it felt like a tire iron. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000, and he died September 24th, 2002, by suicide. Now, Mike played in an era, he played in the 70s, where there were a lot less rules than there are now. And this caused a lot of violence and disruption and a lot of injuries, especially head injuries. And then it looked a lot like this. And I'll have a video that I'll show. It's like 30 seconds. And then, so after that, it plays into... So Mike Webster played center. And center is those really big guys, really fat guys that protect the quarterback. And that means that all those hits that you saw in the video is what he went through every single play. He had hits like that every single play. And to put that in perspective, Mike Webster played for 17 seasons, and he was in 4 Super Bowls. So all the playoff games leading up to the Super Bowls, he was in 9. He was in 9 Pro Bowls, and he had 6 AFC championships. So that was roughly 220 games, which is an incredible amount of games, and that's every single play. There's like 80 plays in a game. It's ridiculous. So when he died, his body was not just in a funeral like normal suicides. His body was donated to science because he had a lot of mood swings and a lot of problems with his head before he committed suicide, and they found that Iron Mike had CTE. They diagnosed him in 2013. Now, CTE, otherwise known as chronic traumatic encephalopathy, according to the Alzheimer's Association, is a brain condition with repeated blows to the head that can also be associated with development of dementia, and also Alzheimer's, which is why it's on that website. The potential signs of CTE are your thoughts and your memories start to go. You have personality changes along with behavioral changes like aggression and depression. Now, people may not experience these symptoms or signs of CTE until years or even decades after the brain trauma and all the concussions from playing the sport. And the diagnosis cannot be made till after death, till they have an autopsy and literally cut open the brain to see the effect on the brain, because you can't see it through a brain scan. Now, Mike obtained this trauma because of the constant pounding every single day, and in that era, there was no real technique to it. You kind of just grabbed the guy and blocked him, and a lot of the time that meant leading with your head. And brain trauma like that every single day for 17 years can really, obviously, did an amazing toll on his body. And being one of the best to ever do it, I mean, there was so many, and he hit really hard. I mean, guys, he's renowned. He's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's not just regular hits; it's pounding constantly. Now, today, Mike Webster would have still been better. The equipment that they have, and the rules and regulations for, late hits and targeting penalties, stuff like that. It would have helped him stay at least better than he ended up. Now, take that, I mean, the video would really send it, but take that in consideration. Now, imagine a little kid doing this. Imagine that kind of trauma to an 8-year-old kid playing football. And that's what I'm trying to drive home with this speech. Now, I'm going to have another video. It's like another 40 seconds. It's just kids destroying each other, so that's great. And then it's like right here, and then I'll lead into that. So now, having watched that I've watched that at least 10 times, and I still cringe every single time because it's so horrific, and I could feel it because I've gone through it, and it's an incredibly painful feeling. And not only will that pain and suffering affect those kids then, but later down the road it affects them 10 times, where it's an exponential. It goes through, and then they'll have trouble. Kids that suffer head injuries early on end up suffering from um, suffer from cognitive function and memory loss when they're older, and all stuff like that. And when you say that, the competitive field is becoming even worse and worse, it's becoming harder, I'm saying, and you have to start earlier to compete with that, I say by the time you get to an actual competitive level, like the D1 level, your body and your mind is just going to be so worn down. So if you started, real early, depending on your position, of course, but if you're like ground and pound every single play since you're in second grade all the way up to college, your body's going to be worn and tired. And this can obviously develop into CTE and concussions and brain trauma and even to your body. And that's why I say that I'm trying to drive home to you is that you should wait to put your kid into tackle football till they're at least into adolescence, older, at least in their teens, because the brain trauma that happens with younger kids, it really affects how their mind works. And even in school, it's hard to think, it's hard to process. So to recap, today we discussed the dangers of tackle football and the likelihood that the players playing tackle football will receive some type of brain injury in their playing time. Now, to prevent this from taking a very serious toll, like Mike Webster committing suicide, I would wait till you're in later adolescence so you have a better chance at coming away. Now, times with better tackling techniques, better penalties, like I said, will protect you when you're older, but it's hard to control your body when you're younger, when you don't have a lot of muscle, when you don't have a lot of explosion, or you don't really know the game that well. And the bottom line is you can't take the violence out of the game, no matter how safe you are in practice and stuff. So that's it.